Hello, everyone. Hope you all are having a great day today. Welcome to the presentation of landing an internship. I'm the Career Advisor for the Computer Science Society, Abdulaziz Khan, and I'll talk a bit about myself and then we'll get right into it. So I'm a fourth year student at the uni. I'm completing my bachelor's of CS as well, like everyone else. I've completed two internships. One was in my second year summer, and one was this past summer as well. The first one was with the provincial government through co-op. The second one was with a startup called The Least Genius, and then this upcoming winter, I'm going to be interning with NVIDIA as a software engineer for them as well. If you guys have questions, feel free to ask at any point during the presentation. I'll have the chat on my right hand side, so I'll be able to see your questions and answer them as we go along during the presentation. So the first thing is why do an internship or co-op? The number one reason would be experience. Creating your portfolio from an early on point of view is really good, especially when you graduate, because it showcases that you already have experience within the field and you know what languages and technologies are relevant in the field itself. It allows you to understand what you like and don't like in the field, front end, back end, DevOps. Each role has a different skill set that's in demand, depending on the role that you want to, excel in. Obviously, you get paid. Money is a huge factor. Some companies will pay depending on which internship it is. They'll pay from $20 up to $60 per hour, which is pretty crazy. So I see a question. What does a software engineer need to know? When you're applying to internships and co-ops, um, there is a few skill sets you want. I'll talk about it more during the presentation. For the other question of how did you get three internships? So the first one was through co-op, which I'll talk about. The second one was actually through a referral. Um, and then the third one of NVIDIA was just because I had two previous internships, so I had experience, and that's why I got picked up. What role do your grades play in getting a co-op placements? Depends on the company and how big of a company it is. Some companies obviously do ask for your transcript when you apply. The only big company that I know that asks for your transcript when you apply would be Google. But even then, they understand that your transcript doesn't reflect your technical skills. Um, but there is, a few and majority of the companies don't really care for a transcript. They care more about what type of projects you've done, etc. And I'll talk about that more as well during the presentation. So the next point is obviously you get to build your network of people that you might know, and hopefully after COVID, if you're given the opportunity, you would be given the opportunity to go work in places like San Francisco, Seattle, um, New York City, etc. And you companies will sponsor your flights. They'll pay you money to live there, like allocation money. A lot of companies will give you free food, etc. So you're well set up, and on top of that, you'd be earning money. Okay, next slide. So internships during the pandemic. Obviously, during the pandemic, the internship market took a big hit. I know that first and foremost because even though I had an internship and I was lucky, I know a lot of friends who had internships lined up and then they got canceled due to the pandemic. Um, but now with vaccines rolling out and the world slowly returning to a new normal, more and more internships are becoming readily available. Many places are primarily remote. Some companies have even switched completely to remote for going forward, such as Coinbase, Shopify, etc. Um, a positive is that companies will give you bonuses for working from home. So while I'm going to be working for NVIDIA remotely, they're giving me a pretty good amount of money just to work from home for things that I might need. It's basically called a work from home benefit. So and it allows you to have flexible hours, so you don't need to be up 9 to 5 working. Um, Sometimes, if you're a night owl, you can work in the night. If you're a person that likes to get up a bit later in the day and start working then, that's fine as long as you get your tasks done. So I see a few questions for winter 2022. Is it too late to apply for internships? Actually, no. There is quite a few internships still available, and there's quite a few companies that are still recruiting. I'll talk about more about how to apply, how to get yourself noticed later in the presentation. Do you have to have side projects if you have no experience? Uh, Obviously, my recommendation is a yes. I would recommend having side projects or projects that are relevant to technological skills that you might have. Hackathons are a really great way to start on that. What kind of projects did you do to get those internships? Um, like when I got my first internship, I had very simple school projects, etc., and maybe just like a few, um, basics GUI projects. There was nothing serious on my resume, but as I did more internships and got more experience, obviously my resume built up. Um, but just getting started with the technology is a good way to start. Playing around, creating something basic is a really good way to start. What year and semester were you in when you got your first internship? I was in second year, and this was at the end of second year, so the summer term before third year. That was when I got my first internship. Um, Next slide. So for an internship, you would apply using links provided in general public found on sites. We have some of them tagged in our careers chat in the CSS Discord. Primarily, it's through LinkedIn. My recommendations are LinkedIn. There's the GitHub repositories that have various job sites, available tagged to it, and career sites of specific companies. Um, if you're doing an internship, the trade-off is that when you do an internship, you have to prep and apply by yourself, but they do tend to pay more than co-op because you're soloing it. A lot of companies are looking for interns. For the co-op program, there's a co-op portal. Obviously, you guys know that, and you get postings that are exclusive for co-op students only. So like Nokia, BlackBerry. There's a few companies that the Windsor Co-op department has exclusive connections with. Co-op also provides workshops, and you take a transform course, which is basically a course that you'll take one semester before your first term, and it'll help you get ready to learn more. You'll also learn more about how to create a good resume, cover letter, how to make yourself stand out, etc. But with co-op, there's a fee of I think 455 to I think if I'm correct, it's 455 per semester. So I see a question: which website is best to display your side projects? Personally, saying you should have your own personal website. So there's a lot of frameworks that you can start, and that can be a project in itself, where you have your personal, projects, experience, kind of like a link to your resume, GitHub, LinkedIn profile, etc. Um, and GitHub's as well pretty well because a lot of companies will also ask for your GitHub repository link. Next slide. GitHub's free, so I think GitHub might be the way. And building a website's free as well, so it's nothing too crazy. So there is a few common misconceptions that I know are pretty relevant in today's. Most internships are unpaid. Yeah, you might see internships that are unpaid postings on LinkedIn, etc. Believe it or not, this is illegal in Ontario, and you can report it. Um, and it's just incorrect, and it's not allowed. Um, you can apply to internships if you cannot apply to internships if you're in the co-op program. That's actually false. Uh, the first internship that I actually got, it was because of an external, like an employee that worked in the provincial government. I contacted him, and then I built that connection, got the job opportunity, did the interviews, etc. And then once I got the job offer, I told co-op, and co-op accommodated it pretty well. They didn't say, hey, you shouldn't be applying outside of the co-op portal, etc. Internships sounds great. Why should I pay for co-op? Let's drop co-op. Um, don't do that, because if it's your first internship or your first co-op, it's not the easiest thing to get, because employers obviously want to take a chance, don't want to take a chance on someone that doesn't have experience. So co-op is kind of like a safety net, and allows you to get an experience with a company, even if it's a small town company of maybe 10 to 50 employees. Regardless, having that safety net of in co-op and being given those job postings is really key. Now, after you're done your first internship, uh, that's something that you should really think about and decide. Do I have the necessary experience, projects, and skills to land an internship on my own, or do I need to still have this network with me so that I still have the best opportunity to land a co-op? Some people, like myself, go to the other way where we drop co-op and look for internships on our own. Other people I know, they're like really smart, are still in the co-op program. So there's nothing wrong with both options. But definitely for your first internship, make sure a first internship or co-op, make sure you keep co-op as a safety net. That's my recommendation. Just because you want to have that safety net to be able to apply to internships, but also have access to those co-op jobs as well. If you're a contributor to projects, are employers interested in that too, or only your own projects? No, definitely. If you're contributing to an open source projects, people are definitely interested in that. It's something that you can obviously add onto your resume and talk about, like how you're contributing to it, what maybe features or tools that you might have leveraged to contribute to it, etc. When do we apply for co-op? So if you're in your second year or your first year. If you're in first year, you should apply for co-op, and your co-op term will start in second year. If you're in second year, you should apply now so that you get approved and you can take the transform course in the winter semester, and then you can apply to jobs as well in the winter semester for the summer term. So if you're interested in applying to co-op, make sure you apply, and you're in the second year. Make sure you get your application done soon. Next slide. So, how to land an internship. So, I have this split into four ways. So, it will be preparation slash preparing, apply, interview, result, which will be offer or rejection. So, if you want to apply, you would have to go on the co-op uwindsor co-op's website. So, it should be maybe uwindsor.ca/co-op. Is it too late to apply for co-op in first year, second semester? No, it's not. I think you can still apply for co-op. Like I said, if you apply in first year, you would obviously start um, your course of Transform in your second year winter semester, and then you'll have your first internship or co-op hopefully in the summer. When would internship opportunities start in university? Do you mean like the internship opportunities for the summer, or do you mean the co-op opportunities? Okay, so preparation, landing the first internship is usually the hardest one. I remember when I was trying to get my first internship, I had applied to almost 300 to 400 places. Like I was applying to anything, everything, just trying to get that first internship. The reason is because I didn't have experience, and maybe you yourself don't have experience. No one wants to really take a chance on someone that doesn't have experience. But there are ways to build your resume and actually stand out to have a better chance. Um, like we discussed before, building a side project, doing hackathons. The university itself has two hackathons that they run, which one was this past weekend, Border Hacks, and then there's another one that will be in the winter semester called Windsor Hacks or Win Hacks, and there are various other hackathons that go on year round on MLH. If you guys are interested, participate in those. Not only does that build your network, it also builds your side projects that you might work on. Uh, Creating a concise but appealing resume. You want to create a one-page resume that has all the important information such as experience, projects, education, and skills. And you want to highlight those skills in your projects and experience, obviously. And Make sure it's one page and all your skills are bolded just so that they stand out, because recruiters only really look at your resume for 10 to 15 seconds when it comes across their table. So having those bolded technologies is what determines, hey, is this a yes or no to be given an online assessment or an interview? Practice coding problems. I know people don't like it. I don't like it myself, but it is essential to landing an internship or co-op. Every company, majority of companies, actually not every company, will have you do a coding assessment, and then following a coding assessment, they'll have an interview with you where you're coding in front of a person, and then you will also have multiple rounds of interviews. Um, if you're a new grad, you'll probably have 2 rounds of interviews. So one will be a phone screen, and one will be a final interview. Usually, it's just 2 interviews. Each will be coding related, and leak code, HackerRank, code signal. This is where you'll build up that problem solving intuition. You'll learn various patterns and topics to tackle those problems if you see them at a later point. There is books as available as well. There's CTCI, which is called Cracking the Coding Interview, data structures and algorithms books. Um, and the key thing of when it comes to leak coding, HackerRank, code signal is that you want to be able to identify the patterns associated with problems. So there's 14 different patterns, and you can find them online when you just search up, uh, coding interview patterns, and they're key to really cracking various different problems, etc. So, web page resume. No, you don't need to have a web page resume. Just something like a PDF that has all your resume experience on it. Would a cover letter be necessary? Depends on where you apply. Some companies will say, um, yeah, we need a resume cover letter transcript. Majority of companies don't need a cover letter. I know co-op's a bit picky as far as I've read the careers chat about cover letters. So it's a really hit or miss type of thing. I personally don't make cover letters when I apply to various experiences, and sorry, various internships, and all the internships that I landed except for my first one, I didn't have a cover letter. I just had my resume. If you have work experience not related to coding, should it still be on your resume? If it's your first time applying, like first internship, yes. Um, but even then, I would say try to, if that's the case, you should change your formatting so that you have your projects before your experience, because your projects will reflect your technical skills more than your work experience. A lot of us in the BCS are in a weird spot. It's 5 semesters right after each other, starting last summer semester. You need to apply for internships when you don't have much academic. Overall, feels like a small window of time. Any advice? So I know with the BCS that you might be in a weird spot, but with the work that you do during those 5 semesters, right? There's definitely different projects that you'll work on. So utilize those projects on your resume to reflect the type of technologies and skills that you're developing, because recruiters understand that even if you don't have the necessary, if you don't have a job experience, they still understand that you can work with the technology, and you might get an internship from that point, where which can lead to then it's on you to really prepare, etc. I'll talk about that more. Where can I find those books? Obviously Amazon, Indigo. If you live in the US, Barnes and Nobles. Amazon is definitely the go-to. There's like cracking the coding interview on Amazon is fairly cheap. I think maybe it's like $20 or $25, something like that. And cracking the coding is a good place to start. Um, CTCI is cracking the coding interview. Yeah. I'm a Fisher student. I'm wondering if it would be possible to apply to internships this summer, or does it depend on which uni you're in, like co-op? I'll talk about that more during the presentation. All right, next slide. So, majority of tech companies offer summer internships, but they also offer fall and winter. Like I told you, I'm working for NVIDIA in the winter as an intern, even though they have summer and fall internships. Some places also offer internships dedicated for first and second year students. Facebook University, Google Step, um, there's a lot more actually. I can't just these are the two ones that are off the top of my head. Um, they're dedicated to first and second year students, so that first and second year students can get experience. Um, and there's also a lot of resources, so you can browse Glassdoor, LinkedIn, Intern Supply, and they'll have various internships available for whichever term. So right now, a lot of companies have already started their summer recruiting. So if you are looking for a summer internships for next year, start applying. Um, Make sure you apply to a large variety of places. Don't just apply to the big companies, FANG, Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Google, Netflix. Apply to them, but make sure you apply. You cast a wide net because getting an interview with these companies is fairly difficult when you don't have experience. And I'm not saying that it's impossible, but at the end of the day, the more you apply, the better chance you have of getting an internship. Um, and if you can, or if you know family, friends, or people that work for a tech company, yeah, reach out for a referral. Referrals are a great way to skip the line. They allow people to, just jump to the head because when a recruiter gets someone that's been referred, it's someone vouching that this person has the technical skills to excel at this job. So, automatically that's like a bonus point on your resume. So definitely reach out to people for a referral uh, wherever they might be working. I would also recommend if you guys are comfortable, when you go on LinkedIn and you apply for, say, you apply to MasterCard, right? Look at the connections. See if there's anyone that's from the U or an alumni that's a recent alumni from the university. Message them on LinkedIn. Ask them, hey, I'm a student at the university. This is my first year, second year, third year. I'm applying for internships. I was wondering, if I could learn more about the work that you do, and then have a chat with them. Talk to them about the job that you're looking for, etc. Would coding projects I worked on in high school clubs be useful in my resume? If those coding projects have technical skills that you are still practicing to today, yes. Um, if you're first year and you did those coding projects in the past 2 years, definitely. My recommendation usually is when you're creating a resume, keep it to the cap at 2 years, so you can reference anything that you've done in the past 2 years. Um, it seems daunting just searching for the jobs. Yeah, there's no doubt. That's for sure. True. I completely understand what you're feeling. It is very daunting because there's a lot of opportunities, but you don't have the experience. And when you read those job descriptions, they want like 50 skills, and you only have like two. But at the end of the day, you don't even if because you have those two skills, you might actually land that. You might actually get the interview to that internship. So it's still really, it's still even though it's a lot of internships available there, just apply. Shoot your shot. The worst thing is what you get rejected. You move on. That's it. There's no harm in applying. So co-op programs start during the summer of second year. So your first co-op term will be during the summer of second year, according to co-ops. The way they have the co-op program laid out in the winter. So if you're in the winter term before your first work term, it will be like a transform course that you take, where you'll learn about resumes, cover letter, how to apply to jobs, etc. And then you'll start applying to jobs, and then hopefully you land something for the summer. Um, 20 jobs and got rejected. Yeah, that's part of like how the industry works. Like I said, for my first internship, I applied to 300 to 400, and I got one offer. You only need one offer. That's the biggest thing, right? Um, but yeah, keep applying. Just move past those 20 rejections. The rejections will just become like a norm. Don't really think about them. Just keep moving forward. All right, next slide. So most companies have a highly technical process to assess your coding and problem-solving skills. Every company has a different way to conduct an interview. The typical process is you'll get a coding challenge, which is like an online assessment through HackerRank or CodeSignal. Um, if you're successful in solving the questions that are presented there, then you'll have 1 to 2 phone interviews with an engineer, which usually lasts from 45 minutes to an hour, where basically it'll be like a Zoom link, Google Hangout link. The engineer will watch you, work on a coding problem. Um, and then you'll move on to the onsite. So the onsite is obviously you'll have many more interviews on the same day. You'll have maybe 2 to 4 interviews, which will also last 45 minutes to an hour. It'll be the same, usually the same things, but more topics will be tested. Um, you might get an array question, you might get a string question, you might get like a tree graph. There's various data structures that you might get tested on. And then after that, it's obviously offer or rejection. Um, and depending on your feedback and how you do in the interview, you can what's it called again? You'll get an offer. Um, Else you'll get a rejection. But usually, when you get a rejection, you'll also get feedback on what you can improve on, why did you get the rejection, etc. Um, you have to do all that to potentially get rejected. Man, that sucks. Yeah, I know, but when you get that first one offer, or when you get that your first job, that feeling is pretty great. I cannot lie to you. Um, a lot of them have requirements I have never heard of. Do I still apply? Like little bit of intending. If you have a few of the skills that are laid out um, within the job description, apply. Because recruiters don't expect you to have all 50 skills laid out in the job description. Because usually the experience and the technical skills just don't line up. You can't be an expert in 50 different technologies and still not have any experience. It just doesn't make sense, right? Um, is there part-time internships, or would you have to take the semester off? No, actually, the internships that that's completely up to you, actually. So I don't think there is part-time internships. Majority of the internships, want you to be full-time, obviously. You don't need to take a semester off, though. So you can talk to your internship, your coordinator, whoever, when you land your internship, and tell them, hey, I plan to take 2 to 3 courses, is what I recommend. And I just wanted to let you know. And usually they're pretty accommodating about it because they understand that, you also want to get some of school done. If you're in co-op, you're not allowed to take courses during your co-op or internship. It's just their rule um, that they have, because obviously they don't want you to your focus to go anywhere else other than the work that you're doing. My friend asked me to lie in resume if that's something to be considered and covered later. Don't. Because the biggest issue is that when people lie in their resume, say you do get an internship, and if the interviewer asks you a question about something you lied in your resume and you don't know how to answer it, you're in a tough place then, because that's a flag for the interviewer that you lied in your resume, and that potentially denies you all the future opportunities with that company, because they'll blacklist you. So they'll put you in the database. It's called a blacklist, saying that you lied on your resume and don't interview this guy. So whenever you apply, you'll just get auto rejected again and again. So definitely don't lie in your resume. Um, you can have a section in your resume, say like you're talking about your skills. You can have irrelevant skills, and then like the skills that you might not be like, you have an understanding of them but you haven't practiced them. Uh, so you can have 2 separate sections. Do blacklists go outside a company? As far as I know, it is company to company. Like Google doesn't share with Amazon their blacklist, and Amazon doesn't share with Google their blacklist. It is company to company. I'm pretty sure it doesn't go outside of a company, but still, there's no point in lying on your resume to get blacklisted, because that's all your future opportunities just gone. So when we pay the 400 for co-op, we get access to a class on how to make resumes and land a co-op. Yeah, so you take a course called Transform, where they'll teach you. You'll have to attend workshops about resumes. You'll have a person that you're talking to, coordinating with from co-op, um, and they'll basically teach you, this makes a resume. This is what your resume format should be. This is how you structure a cover letter, and they'll also give you obviously access to the portal to apply on co-op. Next slide. Oh wait, never mind. Stay on this slide. So usually there is two styles of technical interviews. So there's domain specific questions about topics such as polymorphism, inheritance, encapsulation, abstraction, etc. So this is more of like a conversational type. They just want to see, do you have understanding of these topics? And then there's a data structures and algorithms type of interview as well. So this is a coding interview. Leak code, as I said, is a great way to start, a great place to prep. Uh, Usually, you'll have a timer, so like for 40. Usually, it's 30 minutes to solve the question, and usually by the end of the 30 minutes, they want an optimized solution. What I recommend is when you have a coding interview, um, start off and develop a brute force solution. So it doesn't have to be optimized. It's just a solution that works, and then from there, optimize your solution. The biggest thing when you have these type of interviews is communication. Um, you really want to talk about your thought process, what you're thinking out loud to the interviewer, so that he understands, how you're going about. Usually, if you have a 30-minute coding interview, 20 minutes is just you talking about the different ways you're going to tackle a problem. You haven't written a single piece of code yet. And then the last 10 minutes, once you and the interviewer have come to an agreement of the way that you want to proceed with the question, that's when you start coding up the question for the last 10 to 15 minutes. So majority of the time, you're actually just, telling them, hey, I think we should go with the recursion. I think we should, implement a hash map, and then the hash map will do whatever it needs to do. Or, I should apply breadth first search or depth first search, and it will yield this result, etc. You haven't written a single piece of code yet. For resumes, you learn from Transform. Would those be just general resumes or specific for coding positions? Um, as far as I remember, in the Transform manual, there is a section where it is computer science related resumes, so you could use those. Um, but obviously, you can also look online and you can look at the CSS resources. We have different people and their resumes on there as well. Like I used a lot of those resources to structure my resume, so I definitely go and check those out as well. Recursion, hash map, I don't know these. You'll learn them. If you're in first year, don't worry about them. In second year, you'll take a data structures course, which is key. But if you're thinking of getting a first year internship, um, I would first say, really learn Python or Java, C++, whatever you like coding in. And then once you've learned that, then learn about the different data structures that that language can support. And once you learn about those data structures, then you'll be able to solve the problems on LeetCode, etc. Yeah, Python's a great place to start. I like to code in Python as well when I have interviews. Um, it's really easy to code in, easy, really like readability is really nice in Python, um, and there's a lot of libraries that you can utilize to be able to do a question quickly. I'm still scared of Night Tour M30. Well, will we learn about polymorphism and inheritance in second year? I haven't yet. Yeah, you will. There is a course, Java 2120, which is where you learn Java and you learn about polymorphism, inheritance. You'll have Dr. Kopti usually teaches it. I was at least taught by Dr. Kopti, um, but you'll learn about them for sure. What if it took me 1 to 2 days to finish assignment in Comp 1410? Is that way too slow, or the courses this year are going to make us better, faster coders? That's fine because assignments are meant to, be a large, like you're doing multiple tasks in an assignment. So what I would recommend is if you're doing a coding assignment, right? Take one task of the coding assignment, see how long it takes you to accomplish that one task. If it takes you like 30 to 45 minutes or say an hour, really think about, what's taking you so long to, come up with a solution and how you can improve yourself on that, on that topic. Sats meets teaching right now. Yeah, great professor. Practice makes perfect. Yeah, so keep the questions coming, but yeah, definitely practice makes perfect. Um, and as you learn more about the different topics and different data structures and algorithms, then you'll be able to really understand them and how they work, and it'll make your life easier when you start practicing. Like I said, to practice, you really want to first learn the data structures. So watch YouTube tutorials, LinkedIn learning courses, etc. And then you want to go into Leak Code or HackRank and maybe attempt a few of the easy questions that they have. And I'll talk more about that as well. All right, next slide. So, prepare a cheat sheet for common questions. So, you can make you can have a cheat sheet before you have your interview where you have different common questions and how you solved about them. So keep those in the back of your mind because you might see a similar question and you might just have to do a little bit of tweaking. Sound enthusiastic. That's one of the biggest things. You want to seem genuinely interested in the job that you might be interviewing for the internship, because behavior is a key thing when it comes to an interview. They want to see, hey, can I work with this person? Um, you know, if you're just not interested, there's no reason for them to hire you. Another thing is you can read about past interviews on Glassdoor. A lot of the time, people that post about it on Glassdoor will, say, I had this many rounds. These were the type of questions that were asked. So it lets you understand, okay, I need to brush up on these topics to learn and, actually prepare. If I get a question like this, then, I could be able to do that. What are you looking forward to in it? So common behavior questions are a question like, what are you looking forward to in this internship? Favorite project you worked on and why? Tell me a bit about yourself. You'll always get this question. Um, it's basically they want to see, like about your experience, what type of projects you've worked on, etc. What type of technologies do you like working with, etc. So when you get that question, keep it a mix. So talk a bit about technical, talk a bit about not technical. Don't just read off your resume. Pull stories that you might have that are not technical in itself. Um, and organize mock interviews. I'm available for mock interviews. You guys can DM me if you have an internship and you want to prep a mock interview, regardless if it's behavioral or technical. We can set something up and we can go from there. Uh, and yeah, how much did you practice for your first internship? Um, when I started it, I think I might have done maybe like 15 leak code questions, and they were all easies. They understand that you're someone new, so they're not going to give you a medium or a hard question. They'll maybe give you something that has to do with an array, or manipulating an array, which might just be writing a simple for loop that changes the values, etc. Something like that. Um, is Comp 1000 and 2310 relevant in getting a co-op? Yes, I would say down the line when you get to the higher years of third, fourth, and new grad rules, the theory that you learn in those courses comes a lot more into play. So you learn about graphs, graph theory, etc., and that is very key to learning specific algorithms that are out there to tackle questions like breadth first search, depth first search, topological sort, etc. Those courses really define your understanding of certain algorithms that allow you to solve certain problems. Yes, learning data structures and algorithms a must for sure. It is probably the most important course you will take during your time in your computer science degree. That's why what I would recommend if you're a second year student is please make sure you pay attention in that class, else you're going to need to really teach yourself all those data structures and algorithms by yourself again when you're applying for internships or new grad roles, etc. Um, uh, yep. Okay, next slide. So most companies will call with results from your interview, or you can expect an email from them. If you get a call, it's usually an offer. The email is usually how they will say we're not going to move forward with your application, even though you're a good fit, but you'll obviously get feedback. So if you get an offer, celebrate. Enjoy it. That feeling that you get when you get that offer is magnificent. Show your parents, show your siblings, etc. Understand it. So if you're, an international student or someone that's international living by themselves, think about different factors. Can you live off of this pay? Is there benefits with this pay? If it's a position where you might need a visa, etc. Think about that as well. Evaluate the offer. Talk to people. Look online. What's the general consensus for for the offer, etc. If you do not receive an offer, really don't be disheartened by it. Thank them for the opportunity. Don't really get sad about it. Usually there's a cool down period after you do interviews and you're not given the opportunity. It's 6 months usually, so you're gonna have to wait 6 months before you reapply to that specific company. The biggest thing is you need to expect rejections. Rejections are a major thing. At the end of the day, you might apply to, like I told you, I applied to 300 to 400 places and I got one offer. So you can only imagine the amount of rejections I got in my, email. Next slide. So for resume tips, I would definitely say keep it to one page. Find a good template online. There is various templates that you can use. I would definitely say learn latex and use overleaf because they are just much more aesthetically pleasing templates. It's not too complicated to learn. You can learn in maybe 5 to 10 minutes. It's nothing too crazy or too it's not hard to learn, trust me. And you can always, message me and I'll help you out if you want to create a latex resume. Um, Short and concise bullet points are key. You want to have metrics within your bullet points, and you want to talk about the technologies and why you worked on a specific project, etc. Mention your accomplishments. Use verbs: design, develop, created. Mention about keywords as well. Like I said, technologies, bold them. And if your average is above 80, then make sure you list it because that's something that looks good. Um, latex is really nice. There's various different types of templates. And if you're having problems adding links, make sure your template supports them. Some templates do, sometimes templates don't. If they don't, there is tools that you can utilize to um, add links to your resume. I came here super late. What is the co-op class to help build your resume? It's called Transform. You'll take it in second year, second semester. You'll take it alongside various other courses, and you know, um, it'll just be like a course about how to build your resume, how to build cover letters, what type of jobs are there, how does a CS resume look like, etc. How will I know if it supports links? Usually there's an href tag, hyperreference tags that is usually within the template. If there's not, you can just search up how to add links to if you're adding it to a title or if you're adding like a GitHub logo, then you can href it and add an href tag, etc. What kind of technologies would the company expect us to know if you're applying for internships? Majority of companies are just looking for people that know how to program in a specific technology. So like Python, Java, C++, C. Um, they will teach you whatever technologies that they're using. So say you're a Python person, but the company itself is looking for someone that knows Golang. They'll teach you Golang. Don't worry about that. They'll teach you whatever. They'll give you the tools, the resources to really learn and be able to work on projects at the company. Do we list our classes that we got above 80% in our resume if our average for all our classes was? No, so if your cumulative average is above 80%, you want to list that. I don't recommend listing like specific class resumes because that'll just make your resume messy. But if your cumulative average is above 80, then your CGPA. So if you look at your transcript, there's like your major average, and then there's another average below it, which is your CGPA, your cumulative average, which is all your courses together, and the average of that. So if that average is above an 80% or 80%, then you can keep it within your resume. Um, Next slide. Jeremy, next slide. There you go. So like I said before, recruiters only look at your resume for 10 to 20 seconds. I recommend having your resume in the following order: education, the skills, experience, and project can be interchangeable, so it's up to you. If you have more technical projects, then list those. If you have more experience than projects, list those. Competitions, so like I said, hackathons and awards. If you got a scholarship, or you're recognized as the dean's honor roll, I think that's one of them. Make sure you add that to your resume. It showcases your academic skills. Um, Common resume materials that are not necessary. So summary, you don't really need a summary. References, address, images, interest, or logos. Those few things really aren't necessary. Yeah, even if you didn't win competitions, you develop something, right? So you can, like, especially if it's a major competition like Hack the North or Hack the Six. There's a few obviously in America as well that are big. So if you've participated in those, because majority of the time to get into those big hacker ranks, hackathons, you need to um, actually, you know, be able to showcase your resume, what year you're in, etc. I know Hack the Six is the biggest one that Waterloo hosts, University of Waterloo, and a lot of networks come to it. So even if you didn't win, but you've made a project or a product during that competition, definitely showcase it in your resume and say that you participated in it. All right, next slide. Oh, you're already here. Roadmap for people. So this is for all you first year, second year students that are, looking for that first internship. Make at least one project. Make 1 to 2 projects. If you can't, um, hackathons are a great place to start. Like I said, uni has 2 hacks, like I said, border hacks and win hacks. Build a clean resume that I stated using the previous slides, like I told you. The uni has research and TA positions and volunteer work. Uh, if you can, I know obviously I said unpaid internships are different, volunteer work is different. Research positions are a nice way to get that first type of experience on your resume. I know multiple people that are in that field that have done their research position and have landed their first internship utilizing the experience that they got in the research position. To get a research position, you need to talk to a prof and ask them, "Hey, can I be a research, assistant to you on your project?" And the worst thing is they say, "Hey, the spot's already filled up," or no. Um, doesn't hurt by talking to them, and then start applying to co-ops and internships. So once you've built that first resume, um, if you want, you can DM it to me. I'll get it. I'll check it, um, and once, or if you don't want, you think your resume is pristine, excellent, apply to co-ops or internships right away. I know right now a lot of companies have already started recruiting for next summer. Not to mention Google, Facebook, Shopify. All these companies have already started, and they're, believe it or not, going to close soon. So if you're really thinking about being in your first year, second, especially if you're in your second year, and you want to land that pristine type of internship with those big companies, think about it now. And really look on LinkedIn and GitHub repositories and see what positions are available. Just having the project is enough, or does it have to be good? If the project that you did entails, various different technologies, that's fine, and you can explain, what technologies you worked with and what was the goal of that project. Would a developer website be a good site? Yeah, definitely. Developing your first website is a really good project to list, just because it shows you understand front end technologies, and you can showcase it. It doesn't really need to be anything too crazy. It can just be a simple website with you. Like my first website was just a simple picture of me, and it had 3 buttons. One was to my LinkedIn, one was to my resume, one was to my GitHub. And that's how I got my first internship, believe it or not. So you can style it with CSS and HTML, and you just need those two. But obviously, if you can build something more interactive using React or Bootstrap, there's a lot of technologies out there to build a nice resume, and there's a lot of tutorials as well. Working in the U.S., big thing. Many people tend to end up working in the States. Being from New Windsor, Detroit is right across for us. Um, so there is a lot of benefits with it. There's higher pay, more opportunities, and there's a lot of cities that you can explore: San Francisco, LA, New York City, etc. Like I said, if you do get sponsored to work in the US, the company that you'll be working for will give you relocation money, or they'll provide you corporate housing, which is really nice. Usually they'll give you 3 meals a day. um, they'll give you transportation to and from the office, but obviously with the money that you'll be making, there should be no issue of having, or with the friends that you make that maybe live nearby, you might have a good time exploring the areas, etc. To work as a student right now, you need to remember that the US internships are a bit harder to get just because of COVID. um, so I hope as you guys, as like you become second, third year students, it opens up much more. J1 is required. A J1 visa is required if you want to work in the U.S., regardless of your citizenship. If you're a student of UWindsor and you want to work in the U.S., you need a J1 visa. The company has to sponsor you. There's no way that you get sponsored to work in the company, and companies will usually deal with majority of the paperwork that is necessary for the sponsorship. You might have to submit like your passport, etc. That's just about it. So the J1 visa is the student work internship visa for. So it's basically like an exchange visa, where as a student you go and you'll work in America um, for an X amount of, so usually 4 months or 10 to 12 weeks, and once your 10 to 12 weeks is up, you'll come back to Canada. Um, how do you get a J1 visa? So the company that you apply for, if you get an offer for them, if it's a American position, they'll sponsor the visa for you. You don't need to worry about that. They might just ask about a few documents. So when you apply to jobs, they'll specifically tell you if you need work authorization to work in America or not. If it says no, like if it says yes, you need work authorization, obviously it doesn't work out because you don't have a visa and you don't live in America. But if it doesn't, then you can apply, and if you get the offer, then the company will figure out the logistics of the visa itself. Next slide. So what languages and tools should I know to attract companies? Pretty much any popular language is fine. Like I said, Java, C++, Python, whatever you're comfortable in working with. Companies usually don't require a certain language and assume you can learn on the job, like I said. How important are grades? Surprisingly, not that important. Few companies will ask for your transcript, like I said, but some companies will ask for your GPA. Um, it's optional usually for the GPA. Not all companies will ask for it. I've noticed that companies with co-op do tend to ask for your transcript more than larger companies, just because they are more tight knit and they're connected to the university itself. Uh, yeah. So next question. When doing coding interviews, can you have documentation with you, or is it just No, you can have documentation. If you don't have what I usually recommend is first ask the interviewer if you can have documentation with you. Um, Usually they'll let you, open a new tab, just pull up the documentation, whatever syntax necessary you might need. But there is sometimes where obviously interviewers are picky, um, and they expect you to know the syntax and the documentation. What's a good GPA? If you want to list it on your resume, 80 above is a good GPA. Else, majority of the companies don't really care for the GPA, as far as I know. Co-op does a bit. Like co-op postings will care for the GPA a bit. As long as you have something above 80, it's decent. For the co-op postings, even something above 70 is decent. Um, well, the VOD, yeah. So we will have it on our CSS website, and it'll be on our YouTube page. Any more? Yep, there's our YouTube link. Any other side projects you recommend other than a website or hackathon? Um, an app, if you're interested. You can build a simple calculator app or a weather app, if you're into iOS app development or Android app development, or you can, um, you know, just build a simple game or something. Um, Usually, those simple projects like a tic tac toe game or um, what else can I think off the top of my head? Um, yeah, anything that you might think as a good idea, just go for it. Um, if you have predominantly front end experience, does that negatively affect your chances of landing jobs that aren't front end focused? Or are they mostly just looking for any experience in co-op? So if you're a front end person, when you apply to an internship, it's usually both back end and front end. So say you're a front end person, and usually if you land the offer, they'll match you to a front end role. Yeah, even though it'll be a software engineer, you'll get matched to a front end role. It's not necessarily that you'll be matched to a back end role. Usually, companies will have both of the different opportunities available. Um, and yeah, that's how it usually goes. React Native is yeah. Can you list Discord bots? Yeah, you can. Discord bots are you actually code and build Discord bots usually using Python and the Discord library. So definitely you can utilize Discord bots as projects. Um, yeah, so those were the few questions. How can I contact and get in touch with you on LinkedIn? I can put my LinkedIn in the chat. Just give me one sec, and then feel free to connect, message me. I'm obviously also on Discord in the CSS website, so you can, you know, message me there as well. So there, that's my um, LinkedIn. You can also, yeah, reach me in the Discord. Feel free to message me. Just don't message me at like 3 a.m. asking for a resume critique, please. Trying to land a summer internship as a first year. When should I have my resume prepared? I ordered to start applying before the summer window closes. So summer window has already opened. So definitely build your first year. Build your resume as quickly as you can. Um, and start applying. Um, on LinkedIn, there's various opportunities as well as I've stated the GitHub repository. So really start building that resume as quickly as you can. Like I said, use LaTeX or Overleaf to build the resume if you want to utilize LaTeX, or you can build something obviously from your preference in like Word, etc. Personally speaking, um, Word templates aren't the greatest, but it's completely up to you. And then after following that, just start applying. You can get your resume checked by me if you'd like, um, etc. And I'd be more than happy to, provide a critique, tell you what to, really improve on. And then, once you have like that final draft that you can utilize to apply to everywhere else. Yeah, last minute questions. Uh, if you guys have more questions at a later point, like after the event's done, feel free to post it in this careers chat in the CSS Discord. And yeah, I'll try to get back to you guys as quickly as I can. Any tips for computer science students, like resume tips or like applying tips? Because those are two different things. What do you do if you have trouble thinking of ideas for side projects? You could look online. There is various websites that will tell you of neat projects that you might be like. YouTube has various videos, 15 projects that you can complete within like 15 days. They're very simple projects, obviously, but regardless, it's something, and you learn a different technology if it's something new to you. For resume tips, like I said, keep it one page, format it in the way of education, skills, experience, or projects, and then your accolades, so rewards or extracurriculars that you've participated in. It's up to you. Like interchangeably, you can have experience below projects or project experience above projects. That's completely up to you based off what your expertise are in. Um, and then for applying, obviously, like I said, utilize LinkedIn, utilize GitHub, and reach out to your network. Uh, you know, really use those connections that you might have, like relatives or family, friends, etc. Uh, I heard that game development is the most stressful type of computer science job. Is that true? I'm not sure for an intern how stressful it is. Obviously, yes, I've also heard that game development is very stressful. You're putting in a lot of time as a full time career. It depends on the company, and it depends on the project that you might be working on. Stress comes with any job. You need to remember that. You're not always going to be working 40 hours a week. There will be those weeks where you get near your production, product launch, or project launch, product launch, etc., where you're going to be putting in more time. So it's a trade-off. Some weeks you'll be working 30 to 40 hours just because it's not that busy with your project. Other weeks when it's like crunch time, you'll be working maybe 50 to 60 hours. It really depends on um, you know, um, the project that you might be working on. But game development is an industry that I know what you're talking about and the stress it comes with. But it's definitely a career that has a lot of opportunities if you're interested in game development. The position that I'm going to be working with NVIDIA is actually as a software engineer for the GeForce Experience team. If you guys have NVIDIA drivers, then you know what I'm talking about, where it optimizes your drivers according to the game that you play. So that's the team I'm going to be working with, which is kind of neat because it works both with games and it works with GPUs and software development, etc. Yeah, no worries. That's if you guys have more questions, feel free to message me or we can uh, chat more at a later time. If you guys need any help, obviously feel free to message me on Discord, reach out to me on LinkedIn, etc. I'd be more than happy to, help you guys land that first internship because I know how hard it is, and I definitely know the struggle that you have to go through. No worries. But yeah, with that being said, I think we're gonna conclude there. I appreciate the kind responses, and feel free to message me and connect with me on LinkedIn, and I'll catch you on the flip side.